Hello students. So now we will move on to module 3, which is deadlocks. So we will be looking into all these topics in deadlocks. So you have already studied about deadlock avoidance through Banker's algorithm. I'll be doing the rest of the topics. What is a deadlock? So you already know what a deadlock is, right? I had explained you an example in Banker's algorithm with two processes and two resources, right? This was a scenario that I had taken as an example, right? Okay, so here I had created a scenario wherein process 1 was requesting for R2 and process 1 was assigned R1, and P2 was requesting. So P2 was requesting R1 and it was assigned R2, right? So this was the scenario. Clear? Okay. So now P1 is requesting for R2, but R2 is held by process P2. P2 is requesting for R1, but R1 is held by process P1. So this is a deadlock state. Clear? So it says the same. Process requests for resources. If resources are not available, so for P1, R2 was not available because R2 was held by P2. And for P2, R1 is not available because R1 is held by P1. So if resources are not available, then the process waits. Yes, P1 and P2 are waiting. If the resources are held by other waiting processes, yes, it was waiting, it was being held by other waiting processes, hence the process continues to wait forever. So this particular situation is called as a deadlock situation. Okay, so I had taken an example of bridge crossing example. You can refer to the Banker's algorithm for this particular example. System model. So a model, this deadlock situation can be modeled using a system model. We have resources and we have processes. Okay, so resources can be CPU cycles, memory, and input output devices. Input output devices can be scanners, printers, etc. Okay, and each resource has WI instances. That is, I had told you with respect to Banker's algorithm, that is, each resource had certain instances, right? Okay, what about this third one? Each process utilizes a resource as follows. You know that process requests for resource. So it may get a resource or it may not get a resource. That is, it goes into a waiting state. It uses the resource, okay? It uses the resource, and after it uses, it releases the resource. This request and release can happen through various system calls. So you have already seen wait and signal system calls, right? So it can happen through wait and signal also. And there is a system table which keeps info about the resources that are held by the processes or the resources that are available. So all this information will be stored in the system table. Yeah. Now, this is a very important concept, guys. If a deadlock has to arise, then it has to satisfy all these four conditions that are mentioned here. Coming to mutual exclusion. Mutual exclusion means only one process can be operating on a resource, which means at least one resource should be shared in a non-shareable mode. That is, if a resource is in a non-shareable mode, that means more than one process cannot access that resource. If more than one process cannot access that resource, that means each process, only one process can be accessing that resource. So it is a mutual exclusion. So only one process at a time can use a resource. This is mutual exclusion. Coming to hold and wait. So hold and wait is nothing but a process holding at least one resource is waiting to acquire additional resources. That is, you have seen in the previous diagram, that is with respect to two processes and two resources, we had seen that P1 is holding one resource, at the same time it wants to wait for the other resource held by the other process, right? So it is not going to release its resource, but it wants the other resource also. This is called as hold and wait. coming to the third condition, non-preemption. Non-preemption in the sense, if a process is holding a resource, then you cannot forcibly remove that resource or deallocate that resource from that process. Okay, so resource can be released only voluntarily by the process holding it. That is, you cannot force the process to release it, or you cannot preempt the process to release it. The process has to release the resources voluntarily. This is what is no preemption. After that, process has completed its task. Okay, so no forcing, only by voluntarily the process can release its resources. The fourth condition is circular wait. So in the previous diagram itself, you have seen it is a circular wait. That is, P1 is requesting for a resource held by P2, and P2 is requesting for a resource held by P1, right? So this is called as circular wait. So there exists a set of processes P1, P0, P1, and again back to P0, right? So this is a circular queue of waiting processes, such that P0 is waiting for a resource that is held by P1, P1 is waiting for a resource that is held by P2, Pn-1 is waiting for a resource that is held by Pn, and P0 is waiting for a resource that is held by P0. So this is a circular queue. So it exists as a circular queue. Okay, so these four conditions are mandatory for a deadlock to occur. It's a very important question, guys. Okay, moving on to the next topic, which is resource allocation graph. So if you want to depict a deadlock in a schematic way, then we can use resource allocation graph. It is very simple. Okay, resource allocation graph, you know that a graph basically has set of vertices and set of edges. So here our set of vertices is nothing but processes and resources. Okay, and in edges you have two types. One is a request edge, one is an assignment edge. So you know it already. If a process wants to request for a resource, then you have to take an arrow from the process to request. So this is called as a request edge. If there is a resource that has been assigned to a process, then take an arrow from the resource to process. This is called as assignment edge. So this is what it means. Okay. Okay. Moving on to the contents of resource allocation graph. So this is what we use to represent a resource. That is, circle is used to represent a resource, and a circle is used to represent a process, and a rectangle is used to represent a resource. And if a resource has 4 instances, you need to draw 4 instances inside this rectangle. And this is clear to you. If a process wants to request for a resource, this is how the arrow goes. And if the process is holding or has been assigned a resource, then this is how the arrow should look like. Okay, so this is an example of a resource allocation graph, guys. Okay, so here it says that P1 is requesting for an instance of R1, but R1 is allocated to P2. P2 is requesting for R3, but R3 is allocated to P3, and both R1 and R3 have only one instance. One instance of R2 is assigned to P1, and other instance of R2 is assigned to P2, and R4 instances are available right now. So remember that there is a condition by name cycle. So if your resource allocation graph has a cycle, then there is a chance of deadlock occurring. So here we see that there is a cycle here, right? So clearly you can see there is a cycle. How? P1 is requesting for R1, and R1 is assigned to P2. P2 is requesting for R3, and R3 is assigned to P3. Sorry, there is no deadlock here because there is no cycle here, right? So if there is no cycle, then there is no possibility of deadlock occurring. So since there is no cycle here, you cannot have a deadlock in this case. Okay, I'll take you to another diagram where you will see a possibility of deadlock. Okay, so this is resource allocation graph with a deadlock. Here you will see that P1 is requesting for R1, R1 is held by P2, P2 is requesting for R3, R3 is held by P3, P3 is requesting for R2, and R2 is held by P1. So this is a deadlock situation, guys. So this, if there is a cycle in there exists a cycle in this particular RAG, which is resource allocation graph, hence there is a possibility of deadlock. But sometimes it so happens that if there is a cycle, then you should not always conclude to a deadlock, right? There can also be no deadlock in spite of the RAG having a cycle. I'll take you to another example where you will see that in spite of having a cycle, you don't call it a deadlock. Okay, now look at this, guys. There is a cycle. P1 is requesting for R1. R1 is held by P3. P3 is requesting for R2, and R2 is held by P1. Though there is a cycle here, but this is not a deadlock situation. Why? Because see, P1 is requesting for R1 and R1 is held by P2. But P2 is not requesting for any other resource, right? That means P2 will eventually complete its execution and it will eventually release its resource, right? R1, yeah. Similarly, with respect to P4. So when P4 completes with R2, it will eventually release R2. That is when P3 can get one instance of R2 and P1 can get one instance of R1, right? So this is an example wherein there is a cycle, but there is no possibility for a deadlock to occur. So don't always come to a conclusion with respect to a cycle. A cycle may lead to a deadlock or it may not lead to a deadlock also. And remember one thing, if every resource has only one instance, that is, for example, it has only one instance here, just one dot inside this rectangle, that means if there is only one instance for each of the resources and there is a cycle, then there is 100% possibility of a deadlock. If there is more than one instance in the resource and there is also a cycle, then it may or may not lead to a deadlock. This is what you need to remember. Okay. Okay. Now, so this is what is basic facts. That is what I was saying. If a graph contains no cycle, then it means there is no deadlock. If a graph contains cycle, then if only one instance is there per resource type, then it will definitely lead to a deadlock. If several instances are there per resource type, then there is a possibility of deadlock. That is, it may or may not have a deadlock. Yeah. So to handle deadlocks, you have many methods, guys. Okay. So the first method is nothing but to ensure that a system will never enter a deadlock. You say that prevention is better than cure, right? So something like that. Okay. You prevent the system from entering into a deadlock. So you have mechanisms on prevention and you have mechanisms on avoidance. You have already seen mechanisms for avoidance through Banker's algorithm. We will see how deadlocks can be prevented. Okay. And the second solution is, if a deadlock has occurred, if a deadlock has already occurred, then you have mechanisms to detect the deadlocks and to recover from the deadlocks. And the third one is, ignore that a deadlock never happens in a system. For example, and it is used in most of the operating systems. See, for example, you would have already experienced the hanging, right? That is, sometimes your system goes into a hanging state, right? It gets stuck. So that is a deadlock situation. So if you click on many resources, that is, if you try to click on many icons, or no, they are also considered as resources, right? So what happens is that creates a deadlock situation, and then after some time the system will itself give you a solution. That is, if you want to wait or if you want to stop. So this is an example of the third condition. That is, you just ignore the problem and pretend that deadlocks never occur in a system. That is, the operating system itself will provide a solution to it. You can either end the process abruptly, or you can wait for the process, or you can kill the process. Okay, so this is the third solution. We will see some prevention techniques. We will see some detection and recovery mechanism techniques. Thank you, guys.